Members, it is the appointed time and we have a quorum. Welcome to the meeting of the subcommittee on 4 pieces of subsidiary legislation relating to civil aviation ordinance. I declare interest. I am a consultant to China Mobile and also the founding chairperson of the Alliance of GBA Low Altitude Economy. We will invite the administration to come in. Now, members, do we need to invite the public for submissions in relation to the subsidiary legislation? Then the Secretariat will publish an invitation online to invite public submission. We have already received one public submission, which has been circulated. In a moment, Deputy Director General of Civil Aviation, Mr. Dominic Chow, will give us a PowerPoint presentation. Welcome, government officials. And we welcome Ms. Zhong Hong, Deputy Secretary for Transport and Logistics, Mr. Dominic Chow, Deputy Director General of Civil Aviation, Mr. Wong Chun To, PS for Transport and Logistics. We also have Mr. Lawrence Wong, Chief of Flight Standards of the CAD, Ms. Wanda Lam, Senior Government Counsel, and Mr. Alan Lai from the DOJ. Mr. Dominic Chow, please walk us through the subsidiary legislation. Ms. Zhong Hong. Thank you, Chairperson. Before I give the floor to Mr. Dominic Chow, allow me to give an opening about our policy. Now, in 2024, after the policy address was delivered, the government has started the first sandbox pilot of low-altitude economy and also tested out low-altitude aircrafts. The trade received it with enthusiasm. Now, to boost development of low-altitude economy, besides technology, we need a robust legal framework as well. That's why we have reviewed our framework and will propose amendments to the Small Unmanned Aircraft Amendments Order 2025 and also the Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995 Amendments Order. Now, this is to bring our legal framework more up to date. In formulating the legal framework, we have fully consulted members' views and also consulted the representatives of the trade and stakeholders. The proposals have been supported by them. Now, I will defer to Mr. Dominic Chow to explain the details of the proposals. Thank you, Chair. Now, as mentioned, the existing regulatory regime or the Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995 regulates civil aircrafts. And since 2022, we have a small unmanned aircraft regulatory regime. So they regulate SUA weighting below 25 kilograms. Now, this time around, we are proposing amendments to the SUA Amendments Order to cover SUA weighting over 25 kilograms but not exceeding 150 kilograms to cater for more scenarios. Now, 150 kg will not be our upper limits because we will also amend the Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995 to facilitate the trials of unconventional aircraft with a weighting exceeding 150 kilograms and also covering vertical verticrafts. In Phase 2, we will allow trials of these unconventional aircrafts. But concerning the first amendments to the SUA order, the framework is quite new. It was established in 2022. We can issue papers to allow safe operation of SUAs with a view to protecting public and aviation safety while catering to the greater demand of aircraft services and also the advancements in technologies. Now we will add a new Category C aircraft, which weighs over 25 kilograms, but not more than 150 kilograms. Now we will publish safety requirements documents and advisory circulars covering the safe operation of SUAs and also the scenarios for SUAs to be used. We are going to update these scenarios according to the changing needs in the market. Now, besides the traditional Category A1 aircraft with a weight below 250 grams and also Category A2 between 250 grams and 7 kg, Category B covers aircraft or SUA weight between 7 kilograms and 25 kilograms. Now, these will require an advanced operation permit. The new Category C covers SUA weighting over 25 kilograms and under 150 kilograms. Now, these are the major provisions. Besides adding the new Category C and the definition for it, there is also a new requirement for operating SUA across the border. Now, cross-boundary operations will need pre-approval from the Civil Aviation Department or CAD. And also, we have set out the insurance requirements for Category C aircraft and also the flight data which need to be recorded in Hong Kong for 6 months and accessible within Hong Kong. We also stipulate the level of fees concerning SUA's operation. So this covers advanced operation and also the lightest category of aircraft. For Category A1, aircrafts weighting below 250 grams, there are exemptions in terms of insurance and training to facilitate flying of SUA for entertainment purposes. Now, for Category A2, between 250 grams and 7 kilograms, registration is needed. We have a website facilitating registration. Some 40,000 SUAs have been registered. Now, there are requirements for training and awareness, but there is no requirements for insurance for Cat A2 SUAs. Now, the information will have to be kept for 6 months. Now, for the new Category C operation, advanced operation is a must. Now, there are training requirements and also insurance coverage is mandatory. And for every flight operation, pre-approval by the CAD must be acquired. And also the safety system information must be accessible in Hong Kong. Now, for Category A2 insurance, it is on a voluntary basis with a coverage of up to $5 million. For Category B, the coverage should be $10 million. Now, since 2022, 3 years on, for Category B, the operation of the insurance market for Category B operation is smooth. Now, for Category C, we have added 2 types of insurance coverage. For those weighting between 25 kilograms and 75 kilograms, the insurance coverage should be 15 million Hong Kong dollars. For those between 75 kilograms and 150 kilograms, it should be 20 million dollars. Insurance is one of the safety measures. With a heavier weight, the risk would be higher, so there are more requirements. For example, flying in a remote area. And also, because of the heavier weight and higher risk, insurance coverage must be higher, but not necessarily in relation to the weight directly. Now we already have the power to charge a fee on a cost recovery basis. Now, having listened to members' views, for the first 3 years after the passage of the law, we will waive the charge for fees related to application or provision of services in relation to Category C aircraft. Especially, the government is now trying to boost the economy. And we understand that the industry is still growing, so it wants to create a more encouraging environment for the ecosystem. So for the first 3 years, we are going to waive all charges. After 3 years, we will conduct a review to adjust the fee level. When a fee is charged, we will introduce the amendments into the electrical and specify the fee table. Now, Part 2 in relation to amendments to Cap 448C navigation order. Air Navigation Hong Kong Order 1995, many of the provisions are not applicable to unconventional aircraft. For example, the communication devices and also the qualifications for the operators. Now, because of the ever-evolving technological advancements, we need to have a flexible framework to adapt to the changes, and there is also a lack of unified international standards or best practices for SUAs. So these are the various types of unconventional aircrafts. Now you can see that the propeller, some of them are located on top and some underneath the aircraft. So under Cap 448C, we want to provide a firm legal basis to facilitate trial operations of unconventional aircraft in Hong Kong. Trial operations means that it cannot offer higher for a fee, but we will still allow trial operations of these aircrafts in Hong Kong. And also, we have begun paving the way for a customized regulatory framework for unconventional aircraft in the long term. We are eyeing the development of standards in the country and the world so that our framework can accommodate the relevant requirements. Now we propose to introduce a new Part 9A under Cap 448C to allow the Chief Executive to specify the scope of unconventional aircraft. The idea is to make the scope wide. For example, aircrafts with different numbers and positions of propellers and different dynamic systems. Certain conditions set by the Chief Executive must be met in relation to airworthiness, qualification of pilots, and so on. Now, the C can also specify that certain requirements under Cap 448C do not apply to unconventional aircraft pilot flights. The Chief Executive can issue practical guidance for applications for trials. So previously, we have sat down with the trade concerning the relevant practical guidance. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Members who would like to speak, please press the button to request to speak. Now a total of 10 members. Let me read out their names. First member, Mr. Jimmy Ng, Mr. Eric Yim, Mr. Shanghai Long, Mr. Chen Siu Hong, Mr. Dennis Leung, Dr. Johnny Ng, Professor William Wong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Ms. Eunice Young, and Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. The Legal Services Division has written to the administration in relation to these 4 pieces of subsidiary legislation. Members may refer to the relevant paper by the administration, and the legal advisor will discuss with the administration these amendments later on during the clause-by-clause scrutiny stage. Mr. Jimmy Ng, 4 minutes. Thank you. I agree with the amendments. Unconventional aircraft will bring a lot of benefits to the local economy. We may draw reference from the mainland as well as overseas jurisdictions. These unconventional aircraft are used very widely. They bring benefits to the people, and they also benefit the local government. For example, tax revenue. In relation to insurance requirement of Category C SUA, there are 2 weight requirements. That is $50 million for those weighing between 25 kg and 75 kg, and $20 million for those weighing between 75 and 150 kg. Are insurance companies ready to provide insurance policies for users of SUA? Are there any clear provisions in relation to the insurance coverage? Say different scope of coverage comparing with that in category A1, A2, and category B. For mental distress caused by unconventional aircraft, will it be covered in the insurance coverage as well? Is it limited to physical harm? Pilots of SUA need to undergo training, and there are different ratings. In Hong Kong, how many training organizations provide training for pilots of SUAs? For training contents, are they the same across different training organizations? Thank you. Administration, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take the question on insurance, and I will give the floor to the colleague from the CAD to take the remaining question. The existing $10 million in insurance coverage of third-party coverage, and because of the increase in the weight of the SUA, we have proposed to increase the amount of insurance. In the sandbox projects, 1 to 2 local insurance companies provide insurance services covering SUAs. We believe there should be more insurance companies, so there will be more products in the market, and there will also be downward adjustments in the insurance premium. We have been in liaison with different insurance authority organizations. We've met with the high-ranking officials of different insurance companies. About a dozen insurance companies said that they are willing to consider providing such products. We'll share more of our experience with different insurance companies so that they can provide such services as soon as possible. I will now give the floor to the CAD to provide information on training. At present, a total of 8 training organizations provide such training courses. They include FTU and VTC. Under the sandbox projects, there are more training organizations covering the new Category C SUAs, and there will also be training on beyond visual line of sight operations. The training contents need to be approved by us. They have to meet basic requirements. The tutor also need to meet certain qualifications. Thank you. Next, Mr. Eric Yim. Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the legislative amendments. These will benefit the development of low-altitude economy in Hong Kong. In paragraph 2B of the paper, Having regard to the higher risk of Category C aircraft operations, operator need to obtain prior permission from the Civil Aviation Department first. For Category A, the application is rather simple. You simply need to submit an application to the CAD. There's a higher risk of Category C aircraft operations, so I'd like to know whether the operator needs to undergo an examination, just like a vehicle license or a driving license. Do operators need to pass an exam in order to be granted permission to operate Category C SUAs? For Categories 1A and A2, there is a height restriction or altitude restriction, but I fail to see any such restrictions in relation to new Category C aircraft. So can Category C SUAs fly as high as an airliner of civil aviation at present? In relation to forbidden area, some SUAs are being operated in no-fly zone. Can you tell us more about this area? In case of accidents, the consequences could be significant. Regarding operations of SUA without a license in no-fly zone, the police will take enforcement actions. I understand this may not be within the purview of the CAD. Will there be a law enforcement section as for low altitude economy or for low altitude SUA operations? All operations of SUA need to obtain advanced operations permission first. All pilots or operators need to be holders of advanced operations permission. And these operators will have to acquire qualifications from SUA Advanced Training Organization. As for height restriction, the standard height is still 300 feet. As for advanced operations, a height above 300 feet is allowed, but then we will have to have regard to the safety standards. A lot of SUAs offer different layers of protection. Say for the flight system, there is redundancy in relation to protection mechanisms. There is even a parachute in relation to the SUA. We have requirements in relation to drone maps and so on. Can I continue? Thank you. In relation to no-fly zone, on the website of the CAD as well as the app ESUA, we provide updated information. We also mount publicity together with the Hong Kong Police Force in some areas in Hong Kong. We have close collaboration with different organizations. We are in liaison in relation to law enforcement actions. We will continue with our publicity and liaison with different organizations. Thank you. Mr. Chang Hailong. Thank you. I am an advisor to the China Mobile Communications. I express support for the SUA Order 2025. I have a question on insurance. It is clearly set out in the insurance requirements that for Category C aircraft between 25 and 75 kgs, the insurance coverage is $50 million. For those weighing more than 75 kg but no more than 150 kgs, the insurance coverage is $20 million. There is also a requirement of the keeping of information recorded by safety system, and the information needs to be kept for 6 months and be accessible within Hong Kong. Is it only applicable to Category C aircraft, or is it applicable to all categories of aircraft, including A1, A2, and B? As I understand, for cross-boundary operations, the information will still be required to be accessible within Hong Kong. What about aircraft that are going to stay within Hong Kong? My next question, on the website or in the app, I can see no-fly zone. For example, Lemma Island is not in the no-fly zone. Sharp Peak is not in the no-fly zone either. Does it mean SUAs can fly without insurance taken? 300 feet, that is the current height restriction. What about for the peak of Sharp Peak? Do you take the height level that is 300 feet above the peak of Sharp Peak? Thank you. I will take the insurance question, and then Deputy Director will take the question in relation to another area. In relation to insurance coverage, is it the minimum requirement? Yes, indeed, it is the minimum statutory requirement. But we do encourage operators to take out insurance policies with a higher insurance coverage in order to protect operators themselves as well as other people. I will defer to the Deputy Director to talk about the height restriction. That is the statutory minimum requirement. For advanced operations permission, that is AOP, covering all Category C SUA operations as well as Category B operations, or even for Categories 1A and 1-2. For non-standard flight operations, AOPs are required to be obtained. The keeping of information recorded by safety system and to be kept for 6 months and be accessible within Hong Kong, these requirements apply to all categories of SUAs. As for the question on the height, as I understand, that is, it refers to the height restrictions calculated from the at-grade level. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, I am an advisor of the GBA Low Altitude Alliance, and I'm also an honorary consultant and an advisor of the CLP, as it is involved in the testing or the trials of SUAs. In the panel on economic development last week, I expressed my views on this issue to the Deputy Secretary and the other official. There are a lot of amendments involved, and these will have to be approved by the Director General of Civil Aviation. These projects will have to be approved by the DGCA one by one. There is a relaxation of the weight requirement of 150 kilograms. And for the trials of unconventional aircraft, at present there are legal requirements, and this is indeed a significant breakthrough in relation to the legislative amendments to be introduced. There seems to be no relaxation in relation to the requirement when it comes to beyond visual line of sight operation. the ban still exists. But such projects could still be approved by the DGCA, especially when it comes to beyond visual line of sight operation. As for electrical vertical takeoff and landing devices, how can they be regulated? The Transport and Logistics Bureau, or the CAD, or even for the Working Group on Developing LAE, they will have to devise a system to manage low-altitude airspace in Hong Kong. The Transport and Logistics Bureau, or the Deputy Director, can tell us more.
I would like to know more about the timetable for the dedicated legal framework. We need to move faster. But I'm still glad that this new proposal will allow unconventional aircrafts to conduct trial flights in Hong Kong. Now, what about noise control? This is a very important topic, but I didn't see anything in the amendments in relation to noise control. Now, A1, 2, and B aircrafts, they are lighter, and the noise generated by them are still manageable. But if you are extending the scope to 150 kilograms, the noise created by the flight of the SUA would be a big nuisance, especially when there are hundreds of SUAs with a heavy weight flying in the sky. Now, will you manage the noise through technical regulation in the future? I will save my other questions for the second round. Ms. Chung Hung, thank you. I will take the question about noise control, and I will defer to my team concerning the other questions. We are aware of the potential noise created by larger SUAs. We have been working with the noise control experts in the mainland. They are gathering the data about noise from the sandbox trials. And when we allow commercial flights of those SUAs, we will establish a noise control regime. Mr. Dominic Chow. In the future, we will move on to the legal framework. Now, right now, we have the sandbox for testing air management system applicable in our context. And the real-time flight path and flight data is shared by the flight operators with the administration. So we will keep monitoring the advanced air control system for SUAs in the country and the world, and conduct trials for those potentially applicable in our context. So the CAD will also keep in touch with the law enforcement agencies and policy bureaus so that the management system can meet the law enforcement agency's requirement. In the middle to long run, we will conduct a market sounding exercise with a view to launching a system compatible with the mainland and the world system in the future. Now, we have started a study, and also we have made reference to the relevant organizations under the ICAO to ensure that we have met the international standards. We would like to be flexible to accommodate for the technological advancements in the future. Mr. Dennis Leung. Chair, the amendments we are talking about today are important for regulating the piloting of unconventional aircrafts. Now, over the past 2 decades, a dozen of a dozen pieces of legislation have been introduced in the mainland to deal with SUAs. Now, on the 8th, I hope that this, in terms of the definition for SUA, are we defining SUAs with the 150 kilogram weight? Now, some SUA would be carrying goods. So what about the loading capacity or the weight of the payload of the SUA? Would there be a clearer mechanism to deal with the payload of the aircraft, for example, the equipment they are carrying, that may affect the insurance coverage? Also, about category A2, the operators don't need to buy insurance premium. However, safety is a concern. There have been some accidents involving SUAs in the mainland as well. On pilot trials of unconventional aircraft under CAP 448, will there be a designated site for taking off and landing? And what about their flight paths? Will their flight routes be announced so that residents along the flight path are aware of the situation? Now, the frequency of communication used in the mainland is different from Hong Kong. I know that there are talks of aligning the communication frequency. So what's the progress? Now, CAP 448C, there is only Chinese text. So under the bilingual legal system, I hope that there will soon be an English version as well. I mean, the Chinese version as well. Deputy Secretary, thank you. 4 questions about the weight of SUA. Under CAP 448C, after the amendments, the weight will be increased to 150 kilograms, including the payload. So below 150 kilogram, it would be regulated under CAP 448C. Exceeding that, they will be treated as unconventional aircrafts and will be dealt with under the Air Navigation Order 1995. About insurance coverage for A2 SUAs. Many category A2 SUAs are for leisure purposes, so we hope that the insurance premium would be lower for them. We are now talking with insurers to offer insurance coverage covering a short duration, for example, 7 days, with a smaller premium. Now, we are now conducting a survey among the users on their sensitivity to insurance premium. After the survey, we will talk to the insurance sector again. Now, about the flight paths, in the sandbox, we would upload the flight paths information on our website. No-fly zone would also be designated. Now, about the spectrum. Now, for SUA, they are usually using 2.5 or 5 gigahertz spectrums or our 5G network. Now, in the mainland, there is a designated spectrum for SUA flights. Now, the OFCA has been communicating with the mainland counterpart. The OFCA is going to set aside a designated spectrum to align with that of the mainland. Announcements will be made soon. CAP 448C, there is only the English version. What about that? Thank you. We attach importance to the Chinese translation of the legislation. Now, it was made under the Principal Ordinance in 1995. Many jurisdictions have updated their civil aviation laws. So we think we are going to conduct a comprehensive review on CAP 448C, the Air Navigation Order, so that we can align our laws with the international standards to promote the development of the industry. And besides updating the law, we will also translate the English text into Chinese as well. Mr. Johnny Ng, thank you. I hope the legal amendments will promote the application of SUAs and promote low altitude economy. I fully support the proposals. Some questions. Paragraph 2C, insurance requirements for SUAs. For those weighing between 25 kilograms and 75 kilograms, is 15 million in insurance coverage. For those weighing more than 75 kilograms but no more than 150 kilograms, 20 million Hong Kong dollars in coverage. So how did you arrive at these two requirements? How can you strike a balance between the cost of operating SUAs and also the safety of its operation so as to enhance the application of SUAs in society? Now, development of low-altitude economy will involve cross-boundary collaboration. So have you made reference to the requirements laid down by the CAC of the country and also EASA's requirements? And what about collaboration with other mainland cities in the Bay Area so that we can connect our services in terms of using SUAs to transport passengers and goods and emergency services? There should also be a mutual recognition system to create a unified flight corridor in the GBA. Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Ng, and thank you, Chair. In terms of insurance, under the original CAP 448G, the insurance coverage requirement is $10 million. We have made reference to the Building Management Ordinance. That's the amount of insurance coverage to be procured by the owner's corporation for the building. Now, because we are increasing the weight of SUAs under management, we are also increasing the requirements for insurance coverage. But it is not directly related to the weight. It's not a rigid formula. We have struck a balance between cost and facilitation. Now, about the requirements of the CAC and EASA, the definition for Category C aircraft that is 150 kilograms, we have made reference to Canada, the country, and Australia. Now, with the CAC and also the European Union, as well as other major regulators, we have made sure that our laws are aligned with theirs. There are some proposals for cross-boundary flight operations within the Bay Area. On that, we are working with the relevant bodies, for example, the aviation departments in the Bay Area and other regulatory bodies for civil aviation. Now, in the long run, we hope that there will be alignment in terms of the requirements for SUAs carrying passengers and goods.
I'd like to follow up. What about the airworthiness requirement in relation to SUA? We are in liaison with the officers responsible for airworthiness of the CAAC. Before we have a decision, will take into account the airworthiness requirement, documentations, and the relevant requirements. We will also draw reference from our local experience. Thank you. Next member, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Madam Chair. As for the app ESUA of the CAD, I'd like to ask the administration whether you have considered working with the Hong Kong Observatory. Have you considered providing information on visibility, KP data, as well as the wind velocity of Hong Kong, so that operators of SUAs may decide whether they will take off or not when it comes to the operation of SUAs? When it comes to the remote pilot or the operator, as I understand, Category C SUAs will be added. I believe this will lead to an increase in the demand for remote pilots. As I understand, there is, under the CAD, the SUA Advanced Training Organization Scheme has been in place for 3 years. I'd like to know how many remote pilots have been trained since the inception of the scheme. After adding Category C aircraft, do we have sufficient operators? Do we need to increase the quota for SUA Advanced Training Organizations? In relation to Silas, the system is being piloted in Shenzhen. AI is being employed to track SUAs according to fixed flight routes. The aim is to ensure that the SUAs are flying along the flight route. As I understand, the fixed route of Hong Kong started last week. It started from Science Park to Ma On Shan Country Park. It delivered meals. So have you considered working with the system that is being used in Shenzhen? Last year, a few drone shows were cancelled. Signals of SUAs was disrupted. We may consider using UWB as a backup plan that will help the positioning of SUAs. Then, SUAs can still be operated even if there is ionospheric scintillation despite the high KP value. Will there be UWB equipment in Kai Tak Sports Park so that SUA operations can continue despite the environmental constraints? Thank you. I'll take the question on Hong Kong Observatory, and then I will defer to the Deputy Director General of the CAD. As we are developing the LAE, I understand there is an increase in demand for meteorological information. We've been working with different government departments, say the dashboard of GeoInfo map. We already have Open3D HK. It provides map information, and there will also be meteorological information shown on Open3D HK. We are already working on this. In relation to Silas, as Professor mentioned, is being used in Shenzhen. It's a low-altitude airspace management system. In the coming year, the CAD will start a technical study. It will look into these few systems. In our sandbox projects, some of them have to do with similar systems, and they will be piloted in the sandbox projects. The CAD will single out some requirements that suit Hong Kong. Then they will start the procurement process. Deputy Director General, Mr. Chow. Thank you, Madam Chair. In relation to AOP, that is Advanced Operations Permission, there are 3,875 AOP holders. In relation to remote pilots, a total of 3,690 registered remote pilots. We believe the figures will continue to increase given the addition of Category C SUAs, but it will depend on the actual number of Category C SUAs in the market. And we believe this will drive the development of SUA advanced training programs for Category C SUAs. In relation to drone shows, we're looking into different options. We are working on some sandbox projects in relation to ionospheric scintillation indicators. We'll consider piloting these technologies in some sandbox projects in order to reduce interference. Thank you. Next member, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Madam Chair. I declare that I'm an advisor of the GBA Low Altitude Economy Alliance. We need to take forward the development of low altitude economy by way of promoting legislative amendments in relation to SUAs. We have to prepare for cross-boundary SUA operations. They may happen in the future. As I understand, CAP 44AG. Well, Mr. Andrew Lam, can you speak into the mic? Thank you. CAP 44AG is only applicable to Hong Kong. When you leave Hong Kong, CAP 44AG is not applicable. Take insurance as an example. $10 million to $15 million. Does that cover only Hong Kong? Whenever we leave Hong Kong, I believe there will be changes in the insurance premium. Are you looking into the situation? Are you exploring different options? Say when vehicles take the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, drivers will have to consider insurance as well. Again, using insurance as an example, is the amount of insurance only linked to the weight of the SUAs? Do we also need to take into account the function as well as the flight route of the SUAs? Thank you. Administration, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Lam. Regarding cross-boundary operations, we have been in liaison with the boundary control points in mainland China. We have started discussions. As Mr. Andrew Lam mentioned, the scopes are quite complicated. Infrastructures, signals, customs clearance arrangements, or airspace management, insurance, supporting facilities. We'll be working with the mainland China on all these fronts, and we will try goods delivery with fixed routes first. In relation to insurance, as we mentioned, the CAD is adopting a risk-based approach. CAP 44AG, we have drawn reference from the BMO, that is $10 million as the basis. Given the increase in risks, we have proposed to increase the insurance premium amount. Overall, we have taken into account risks, operational difficulty, as well as flight flight routes. This is the minimum insurance coverage amount we're proposing. Thank you. Some follow-up. I'm glad to know that the administration is in liaison with the mainland China. These pieces of legislation target SUAs registered in Hong Kong. So, can I assume? Just now, you used a professional term. Say for SUAs registered in Macau, the existing legislation doesn't apply to the takeoff landing points in Hong Kong. After discussion with the mainland China, you should introduce more comprehensive amendments or revisions. Is that correct? Yes, indeed, we need to work on interfacing with mainland China. There are different models of SUAs, so when they fly to Hong Kong, are the takeoff landing points still suitable for these SUAs? There may be different IDs for SUAs coming to Hong Kong from mainland China. We need to be able to trace these IDs of SUAs. The mutual recognition of such IDs, we also need to work on it. Thank you. Mr. Lam? Well, Mr. Chow, thank you. Using cars as an example, cars need to abide by legislation in Hong Kong when they are in Hong Kong. When they are in mainland China, then they will have to comply with the traffic laws and rules in mainland China. When it comes to cross-boundary operations of SUAs, no matter where they are registered, whenever they are flying in Hong Kong airspace, then they will have to comply with the insurance requirements specified just now. Do we consider the flight routes as well as the functions as well? Well, the insurance requirements are only one of the requirements safeguarding the safety of SUAs. Flight routes, speed, they are factors at play as well. The insurance requirements are simply one of the factors. The insurance requirements are actually one of the factors allowing the public to understand the situation better. This will also enhance the level of transparency. This will be more certain. As I mentioned, there are other safety requirements as well, and we will impose different regulations or rules when it comes to different cases. Thank you. Ms. Eunice Yong, I support these legislative amendments. I believe they will benefit the development of low-altitude economy, and they will also generate more application scenarios. Members of the public will feel the change. I noticed a few changes. Say for Category C SUAs, the weight is different. There are also different insurance requirements. For Category B aircraft, the heaviest is 25 kilograms. It's between 7 kg and 25 kg. For Category C aircraft, they are weighing between 25 kg and 150 kg. That is several times of SUAs flying in the Hong Kong airspace. I believe there should be multiple-fold increase in the insurance requirement if ratio is very important. Right now, the insurance premium stands at $50 million and $20 million. How did you arrive at these figures? For Category C SUAs, shouldn't they be higher? Shouldn't you be working on a model backed by evidence? For SUAs flying in a city or above river, the risks vary from one to another when it comes to different flight routes. Risks, pressure are also different. Large SUAs fly in the Hong Kong airspace. I believe the application scenario will also be different, so the insurance requirements should be different. Just now, Mr. Jimmy Ng asked about insurance requirements as well. Right now, you have suggested $15 million and $20 million. These two are not very different. There's a difference of $5 million, but then the SUAs are a lot heavier. So I'd like to know how you arrived at the figures of $15 million and $20 million. In densely populated areas, shouldn't the insurance amount be higher? You have increased the weight for Category C aircraft, but penalties isn't much heavier. 21, 22, 24 of Cap 44 AG, there's no change in penalties. Even when there are going to be heavier SUAs being operated in the Hong Kong airspace, even if they are being operated without a license, the imprisonment term is still 2 years. You didn't propose to increase the penalty.
Third question about the visual range or beyond visual operation of SUA. Organizations and operators of SUA have been asking whether the law should permit beyond visual line of sight operation. A permit may be required. Now, this is a problem we have to deal with soon, since we are talking about cross-boundary operation. Of course, the operation of cross-boundary flight operation would be beyond visual line of sight. So how will that work? Thank you. Deputy Director General. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Yung. On the last part of the question, beyond visual line of sight operation. Now, Section 15(2)(b) stipulates that for standard operation, it must be within visual line of sight. Since for unconventional aircraft, we are talking about non-standard operation. So under Section 15(2)(b), the secretary or the director must issue a permit on advanced operation. Now, the guidance has been issued by the end of last year. So mostly, our flight operations are those involving beyond visual line of sight operations. We agree that for most cross-boundary operations, it would be beyond visual line of sight. So our legal system can already cater for this kind of operations. Now, for insurance, we are extending the weight to 150 kilograms. It is 6 times higher than those with a 25 kilogram weight. Now, there are 2 types of use cases here. Now, some departments would think that 25 kilogram is restrictive. I'm not asking about the weight, but the penalty of the relevant offenses and the insurance requirements. Now, about insurance, we are not asking for an insurance coverage 6 times larger. We have made reference to the requirements of other jurisdictions. For example, in the mainland, there is not a set insurance amount. It is up to the operators of the SUAs to determine a suitable amount of coverage. But I think we need to set a standard for insurance coverage. Now, in other jurisdictions, there are not a minimum insurance coverage amount in place as well. However, to protect public safety in Hong Kong, we think we need a minimum insurance coverage. We haven't asked for a 6-time larger insurance coverage because we consider that it is important to facilitate commercial activities. So the operability of the system was also our concern. Now, before we set these requirements, we have consulted more than 100 private organizations with advanced operation permits. We've also communicated with the Association of Insurers and the insurance trade. They generally think that we have already struck a balance. In terms of offenses, these proposals are in relation to subsidiary legislation, so they are subject to the principal ordinance, which is cap 448. We have already reached the maximum penalty level under the main ordinance. But of course, civil litigation will not be subject to such a cap. Next, Mr. Tony Che. Thank you, Chair. The government is extending the regulatory framework for SUA. This is the right direction, so I will support it. However, to develop low-altitude economy, we need to pursue development in 3 aspects, including industry, regulation, and mechanism. Now, as the Chief Executive has said in the policy address, we need the relevant supporting facilities like pads for taking off and landing and also other facilities. Now, in terms of landing platform, it's not just under the purview of the CAD. Buildings are involved and planning is also involved. We need to pursue progress in other aspects as well. So we hope that in the future buildings will have space set aside for taking off and landing of SUAs. Now, for Category C aircraft, what is the approval mechanism? There might be already guidelines on the requirements of supporting documents and the time frame. In terms of approval, how long will it take the CAD to grant the approval? That would affect the willingness of the applicants. Now, will the public be made aware that a certain SUA is a qualified Category C aircraft? Is there any way to find out? And also, collaboration with the trade is needed. Now, Category C aircrafts, they cover SUAs weight between 25 kilograms and 75 and 150, 75 and 150 kilograms, or 25 and 150 kilograms. So is that in line with the country's legislation? Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Jie. About the policy directions and our infrastructure plan. We agree with Mr. Se's point. So we are gathering experience from our sandbox. The TLB and the CAD will make plans for the infrastructure, for example, taking off and landing points, and also the airspace. We will translate the outcome or the findings from the sandbox to the blueprints for the industry. Now, we have a very long value chain in terms of SUAs. In the mainland, the country has an advantage in terms of designing and also research for SUAs. In Hong Kong, our strength lies in qualification standards and also insurance and other professional services. So together with the country, we can form a strong ecosystem for SUAs. About the approval process for Category C aircrafts, this is a new category. So we have a similar system in the sandbox. In March, 38 programs were announced by the Chief Executive. By the end of May, 7 programs have been approved. It depends whether the relevant documents are ready. The CAD would set out the specific requirements, but the progress depends on whether the operators can have the documents ready in time. In terms of cross-boundary operation and the standard, 150 kilograms, we have made reference to the mainland standard. The SUA's weight can be as heavy as 150 kilograms in the mainland as well. About flight rules and other standards, however, we need to have more discussion. Chair, I just hope the government would make the approval process as simple as possible while balancing the safety of SUAs. Now, it involves a lot of departments like the buildings departments or the EMSD and so on. So I hope and also the ASD. So I hope that these departments will be involved in the sandbox and the approval process as well. Thank you, Mr. J. To elaborate, for advanced operation, if all documents are ready, the CAD will grant an approval within 10 working days. Now, you are right, many departments are involved. So under the sandbox, we have a one-stop platform. There are a dozen of departments involved in the working group. They all collaborate to ensure that the programs can be implemented as soon as possible. Now, Category C aircrafts with a weight of 150 kilograms. We are now trying to identify longer flight paths. And for longer flight routes, larger batteries are involved. So this kind of weight is normal. Mr. Benson, look. Thank you. Concerning the proposal to enhance the legislation in relation to low-altitude economy, the proposal allows piloting of unconventional aircrafts in Hong Kong and also to repair for a dedicated legal framework for SUAs. So I support them. There is also the addition of a new category of aircraft. This will benefit the pilot's use of SUAs by private operators in many scenarios. Now, the government has consulted the insurers. So I have a question. In the regulatory sandbox, there are 7 programs being tested out. But they are mainly non-goods carrying projects. Now, the trade considers the goods carrying capacity to be important if we want to develop an economy out of it. Now, there are a lot of talks about island hopping tourism. So does the sandbox cover our outlying islands, for example, the Lamma Island and Cheung Chau? Are there beyond visual line of sight operations involved? Now, there may be some overlapping with emergency service SUAs. So how does the government sort out all these issues? And also, there are strict restrictions on the use of SUAs along the shoreline of the Victoria Harbour. There are lots of public and private helicopters flying in the airspace above the Victoria Harbour. So, can we allow piloting of SUAs in that airspace?
In relation to takeoff and landing points, for the routes of different sandbox projects, it seems these points cannot be shared by them. We have, for instance, 3 to 4 operators, and they will require different takeoff and landing points for different operators. In Hong Kong, we have a shortage of land. Can these points be actually shared by different operators? Can the administration play a coordinating role so that different operators can share the same takeoff and landing points? Thank you. DS? For outlying islands such as Lamma Island and Cheung Chau, some sandbox projects will reach these outlying islands. Say for GFS, they have a lot of duty calls. So when it comes to the airspace management, we don't have an airspace management system. So we may have to put in place time separation. So the use of airspace isn't the most efficient. When we have the airspace management system in the future, we will be able to make even better use of the airspace in Hong Kong. As for takeoff and landing points, operators will have to make their own takeoff and landing points. We want to identify areas with a higher demand for takeoff and landing points. We will take into account all these factors in relation to sharing different takeoff and landing points. We will consider this as well. We may even consider how to encourage commercial organizations to provide more takeoff and landing points. Thank you. Next member, Dr. Lo Kwok. The low-altitude economy is a major business opportunity. Now we are discussing legislative amendments to different civil aviation legislation. I support these amendments. Of course, it doesn't mean we will have a comprehensive set of civil aviation legislation after making these amendments. But at least we need to provide legal basis for the operations of SUA trial flights. I support these amendments. They will enhance the capacity to carry freight by SUAs. Some experiments have been performed. I'd like to ask about the 3D coverage of network in the airspace. Have you identified any issues? Some members just now raised some questions. They have made some suggestions as well. However, when it comes to real-life operations, have you identified any issues with the 3D information network or 3D telecommunications network? Is it quite comprehensive? Would it lead to any problems with the operation of SUAs? Many members are concerned about insurance issues. As said in the paper, the third-party insurance policies, the amount is simply the minimum amount. There are going to be a lot of such activities in the future. I believe service providers We have to take into account the nature of different services, and then they will decide on the insurance premium amounts. Thank you. DS, thank you, Dr. Low, for your questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. When it comes to the 3D network, at present, we haven't yet identified any issues. However, for more remote islands, we may have to test the coverage of the internet or of the network. We'll be in close talks with the operators or the telecommunications operators to identify room for enhancements. As for the insurance premium requirements, indeed, these are the minimum requirements. There will be a greater demand for different insurance products. Thank you. Mr. Frankie Yek, I have to declare I'm an advisor of GBA Low Altitude Economy Alliance and China Low Altitude Economy Association. I have to commend the administration. You have been very efficient. Madam Chair, we had a meeting last time. The logistics industry would like to see cross-boundary operations as soon as possible, especially for urgent freight. I believe cross-boundary operations will lead to a lot of economic benefits. This morning, in the panel on welfare services, we talked about another issue on traffic accident amounts. If there are any accidents in the future and if they injure someone, is it an incident of traffic accident compensation? Just now, the administration said that you had drawn reference from mainland China, but for land transport, third-party insurance, basically $100 million. This seems to be a difference between $100 million and $50 million or $20 million. You may not have an answer today, but Mr. Ambrose Lam raised this very interesting question. We may want to think about this. You may have to give it some thought. DS, thank you. Thank you, Member. Thank you, Madam Chair. In the subsidiary legislation to be drawn up later, we'll discuss the categories of insurance products or the amount of insurance. As the Deputy Director General said, insurance is simply one of the requirements. There are other factors or other mechanisms that will protect the safety of flying. On cross-boundary operations, anything to add? Well, I hope this will materialize as soon as possible. The logistics trade thinks that this will bring a lot of economic benefits to Hong Kong. Myself, first of all, I support the legislative amendments this time round. This will help Hong Kong to promote the development of low-altitude economy. If we couldn't make these legislative amendments, it'd be difficult or even impossible for us to promote low-altitude economy in any application scenario. When it comes to developing low-altitude economy, a total of 15 proposals have been made. A lot of members talked about some of these proposals. We care about the overall development of LAE in Hong Kong. Not all members of the public are well up in the legislation or the legislative amendments. We've been in talks with the trade. There are going to be a lot of safety regulations or practice guidelines. Not necessarily all details are going to be set out by way of legislation. Having said that, I believe the trade will be concerned about the application scenarios. The government is going to launch the second batch of application scenarios soon, and I believe the difference will be substantial. Different application scenarios, different flight routes, different SUAs, the operations will also be different. Will the administration impose different safety standards? Will you issue different guidelines? Structures, vessels, crowd. What about separation or distance? In some application scenarios, such as for building inspections, or for window cleansing, or within a building, or in enclosed space, when we perform inspections, there is close to no separation or distance with the building. If we have a restriction of 10 meters or 5 meters, we cannot implement these restrictions across the board. Against this backdrop, as for different application scenarios, will you devise different safety standards or guidelines? As for the low-altitude airspace management system, I understand this is very important. Without it, it'd be difficult for us to allow different types of SUAs to fly in Hong Kong. It'd be difficult for the administration to manage these flying activities. But what about the timetable? I understand the CAD is looking into different systems. People want to know when we will have the low-altitude airspace management system. If you have the rough timeline, then people can make preparations. Before the system is in place, there may be illegal flying activities in Hong Kong. Only with a safety standard or with regulations can we protect the safety of these flying activities. Otherwise, we cannot safeguard the safety of members of the public in Hong Kong. Mr. Chow? For different application scenarios, we'll continue to publish different safety guidelines. For building inspections, building maintenance, surveying, or we have the window cleansing sandbox project, we have different guidelines for different application scenarios. Say the 10-meter restriction might not apply to buildings. There may be a less strict separation requirements. We'll have to take into account advanced operations. Privacy concerns are also at play. We may require the operator to provide submissions or make applications in due course. There will be new safety guidelines when there are new application scenarios, and these are subject to change. Regarding the system at present, as I mentioned, in this stage of sandbox projects, we have a provisional system. It's able to monitor trial flights of SUAs. The real-time flight routes, location will be monitored. We check whether they are in line with the data in their application. Regarding illegal flying activities, we are monitoring the situation together with the police force. In relation to trial flights, we will set temporary restricted flying zones, RFZ. When it comes to violation of the regulations, we'll follow up with the police force. In the future, the system will also be able to detect illegal flying activities in Hong Kong, especially for high-risk building areas. We will detect illegal flying activities. Regarding the timetable, we still need some time to confirm the details. A rough estimate is about 2 to 3 years later. we are monitoring the development in mainland China as well as in overseas jurisdictions. We want the system to suit the long-term development of Hong Kong. At the same time, we also want the system to allow us to interface with mainland China and overseas jurisdictions. We need to interface with the standards in mainland China as well as overseas. We expect we at least need 2 to 3 years' time to prepare for the system.
So another point, Chair, about the standard height for flying an SUA on top of a mountain. Now, if it's 500 feet above ground, I mean, if that's the height of the mountain, the standard height of flight is 800 feet, 300 feet from atop the mountain. But if someone flies a drone at a lower height on the mountain, then the height needs to be adjusted accordingly. Mr. Chen Xiu-Hong. Now, my next question is about regulatory requirements. Now, there is a requirement to maintain information in relation to flight safety for 6 months, counting from the date of the flight. Now, that is applicable to small SUAs under the weight of 25 kilograms. I mean, the requirement is not applicable to drones lighter than 25 kilograms because the risk is lower. Now, for Category C aircrafts, the application scenarios are very diverse. Now, is it reasonable for applying the requirements to larger aircrafts as well? For safety audit and incident investigation, the time needed may be longer than 6 months. Then if information are only required to be kept for 6 months, then after 6 months, the evidence would be gone. Now, for testing of unconventional aircrafts, the chief executive can grant approval for certain aircrafts to be tested. So does that apply to eVTOL or verticrafts? We are now seeing hydrogen fuel cell driven or powered eVTOL. Now, Cap 51 Gas Safety Ordinance, in that ordinance, definition does not cover aircrafts. So in the Air Navigation Order and the future technical legislation, will eVTOL powered by hydrogen fuel cell be covered? It seems that it has escaped several pieces of legislation, and testing of hydrogen fuel cell powered eVTOLs are not covered for test. Deputy Director General, thank you. Concerning application in relation to hydrogen fuel cell powered aircrafts, our sandbox, including the testing regime for unconventional aircraft, hydrogen fuel is not covered. We have not received any application in relation to hydrogen fuel cell powered aircrafts, but we will consider these applications if we receive one. And they are also related to Cap 51. if the aircraft requires an on-land hydrogen fueling system, then there will be safety requirements for such facilities, especially when these facilities have a dual purpose. Now, concerning the prosecution period and also the 6-month requirements for safety information, according to our past experience, the system works just fine. First, we would immediately require the operators to submit an incident report to us. Upon receipt of a third-party incident report, we would immediately follow up the matter with the relevant operators. And together with the police, we would gather evidence swiftly and initiate prosecution when needed. So we think the 6-month requirements for keeping information will be sufficient for law enforcement purpose. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Chair. I do not declare my interest. I am a consultant to the Alliance of Low Altitude Economy of the Bay Area. I'm also an honorary consultant to another organization. Now, there will be more and more cross-boundary application scenarios for SUAs. At this moment, have you considered the flying conditions in the loop area? That's where a lot of innovative activities take place. So what is the condition for cross-boundary flights in the loop area? Deputy Secretary. Thank you. The trade has suggested using SUAs in the Bay Area, in the loop area. Now, as long as cross-boundary flights is involved, the Director General's approval is required. So for cross-boundary flights anywhere across the border, it can be dealt with under the existing legal framework. Next, Mr. Eric Kim. I declare interest. I am also a consultant to the Alliance of Low Altitude Economy of the Bay Area. Now, about insurance, I think there must be a clear mechanism for assessing the risk. The assessment exercise should not just pertain to weight, but also flight path and other factors. Now, even for something as light as an egg, if it drops from a height of 90 meters, it can still be fatal. So we must have a clear framework for risk assessment. Now, there may be phase 2 and phase 3 under the sandbox. In the future, the insurance coverage may be enlarged to $30 million or even $100 million. So the insurance premium cost will be high. When there are 100 or 200 companies using SUAs, maybe there can be a better insurance system. Thank you. Now, I've explained the factors behind the decision to set the insurance coverage at $15 or $20 million. Now, there are more and more viable products in the market with reasonable price. Now, when there are very few insurers willing to take up this insurance item, the cost may be high. So some insurers may wants to collaborate between themselves and launch this kind of products, that would be beneficial to the development of low altitude economy. In the future, we will consider the suggestion made by Mr. Eric Yin concerning co-insurance mechanism. Mr. Chen Xiu-Hong. Chair, this is a question, but also in relation to the clause-by-clause process. Now, it was mentioned in the PowerPoint, clauses 3, 5, and 9 will stipulate that for advanced operation, prior approval from the CAD must be obtained. Now, I think it doesn't say categorically that the Director General of Civil Aviation is the one to approve the use of SUA. Now, if there is a section of the flight path outside the Hong Kong territory, that would not apply. So why did you draft the provision so? I think we can better explain this matter when we are in the clause-by-clause process. So I think this is quite complicated, and I take that you have taken due consideration before drafting the law so. Now, many members have raised concerns about operators of SUAs. Now, the requirements for operators at present is different from operators capable of conducting beyond visual line of sight flights. In the future, the operators will need to have a better sense of risk and better understanding of the back system platform and also information security. So will there be additional training requirements for operators in the future? Now, there is a great shortage of SUA operators in the mainland, a shortage of 1 million operators. So the mainland has been working tirelessly to train more operators. I think there is great demand for this kind of talent. According to the Deputy Secretary, many organizations are ready to provide training. But you need to get the teaching materials and the training standards ready before they can start the business. So will the qualifications for our SUA operators be aligned with those in the mainland? Many operators holding a mainland license may come to Hong Kong to operate drones. So will that be allowed? Thank you. We attach importance to the standard setting for operators' qualification. For Category C aircraft operators, there will be a breakout category for Category C operators under advanced operators. Now, we are now formulating the relevant qualification standards. We are now discussing the matter with the training bodies in terms of risk awareness and data privacy and system security. We are now considering whether these elements can be included in the training programs. Concerning operators with mainland qualifications, we will consider certifications obtained outside Hong Kong, including the mainland. And we will review the contents of the training programs and recognize these qualifications. At the same time, we will actively prepare for setting our own standard for Category C operation involving beyond visual line of sight operation. Some of our colleagues under the CAD have received such training as well.
討論下呢個
So we will discuss with the mainland China mutual recognition. Thank you. At present, in Hong Kong, we don't have the relevant training program yet. When we have the relevant training organization and program, we're actively considered working with the mainland China on mutual recognition. Well, before you start designing the training programs, will you already be discussing with the mainland China? Then, when you provide training courses, you may achieve mutual recognition with mainland China sooner. Next, I'd like to ask about data. Data matter in relation to the development of LAE. In Hong Kong, we already have our own data platform. We also have the 3D spatial map. That is Open 3D Hong Kong. Will we require operators to use the official map? We want the data to be uploaded onto CSDI for common use. Thank you. With CSDI, we are discussing data. I mean, we are discussing what kind of data are useful. We will also draw reference from our sandbox experience to see what kind of data can be provided for common use. We will take stock of the situation later on. Well, we're using the same map. That's exactly how we can prevent accidents. Before we have UTM, you use Google Map, whereas the other person is using another type of map. It's difficult for us to achieve interfacing. We need to use GIS of the government. We have encouraged operators to understand what kind of information or data the government may provide. The latest 3D map has been launched. We have encouraged operators to use the latest 3D map, so we are using the same type of maps. Well, I am concerned that not all of us are using the same type of maps. I believe the future airspace management system will use the latest version of the 3D map, and the data will also be connected to the CSDI. You are simply encouraging operators to use government maps. You aren't mandating them to use government maps. Will it be difficult when it comes to regulation? Will you consider making it mandatory for operators to use the map of the Hong Kong government? Thank you for your suggestion, and we'll go back and consider it. Some requirements may be different when it comes to the accuracy of their own maps and that of the 3D digital map developed by the government. However, whenever they can use the government map, they should use such maps. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, third round. Well, I mean the fourth round. Thank you, Madam Chair. You raised a very good question. We understand there are organizations in the mainland issuing certificates. There is SU8 license of CAAC. There is another license issued by the relevant organization. We also have ASFC. That is a certificate in relation to the operation of SUA. I heard from the Deputy Director General of the CAD that both sides will have to discuss the licensing requirements when it comes to the training programs. If we are to promote cross-boundary operations, we cannot work in silos. If we have different standards, then the Hong Kong operator cannot operate into the China airspace. He or she will have to hand over the operation of the SUA to another operator in mainland China. If we are to start from scratch to build a system, we might as well discuss it with mainland China as early as possible. We may consider having a website of Hong Kong standards and the Bay Area standards. This matters. I'd like to hear from the Deputy Director General or the Deputy Secretary. Do you have any vision in this regard? Thank you. DS. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chen. As we already touched upon it, the industry chain of the low-altitude economy, we do have our unique position. We have professional services, and the CAD has international professional airspace management experience. This is exactly the direction we are working towards. Next member, Professor William Wong. Thank you. I'd like to follow up on data crossing the boundary. In the future, in the loop area, there may be research centers in both places, and there will be a lot of applications of SUAs. The SUA may send different data across the boundary. Some data may be carried across the boundary, whether intentional or not. Is there any mechanism in place? I understand there is GBA standard contract developed by the Digital Policy Office. Have we considered this? DS. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Professor Wong. We've talked to the DPO in relation to the applicability of GBA standard contracts. It hinges on whether the information is classified or important information. The information when it comes to the operation of SUA is oftentimes flight data. We don't rule out the possibility that SUAs may capture the faces of different people. We may blur the sensitive information captured in the data of SUS. So member is correct. We will remind operators when they need to send data across the boundary, they will have to comply with the relevant regulations or requirements of cross-boundary data in mainland China. Say they may have to have regard to the GBA standard contracts. Thank you. Professor Wong, healthcare sector, banking sector, there are a few sectors. So when it comes to the low-altitude economy, will different sectors have to apply for certain contracts? Thank you, Professor Wong. We'll discuss it with DPO to see if we need to expand the industry. As I understand, the scope of industries is quite wide. When it comes to cross-boundary law, there are certain exemptions. Say when the data are obtained in Hong Kong, but then they are carried across the boundary for storage, after which, when they are carried across the boundary back to Hong Kong, there may be exemptions and an application may not have to be necessary. It's difficult to give you a clear-cut answer in this regard. We'll have to take into account what the data involve. Thank you. A lot of members have spoken on this issue a total of 21 times. Now, I'll wrap up the policy discussion, and at the next meeting, we'll start clause-by-clause scrutiny. We have to give sufficient time for the subcommittee to report to the House Committee. So on the council meeting, I will apply on the 18th of June at the council meeting to extend the scrutiny of this subsidiary legislation to the 16th of July 2025. Any questions? If no, I hope that we'll start clause-by-clause scrutiny and finish it at the next meeting. Any other business? There being no other business, meeting adjourned. Thank you, members.